everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between Two Studs. I'm Alex Stud.
And I'm Ron Stud.
Ron, episode 12. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Now, listen, I know last week when we had Adam on, I told you you had to bring your A game. We have to bring our A game today, too. I don't know if you know this. The person we're speaking with is a world champion.
I've heard.
World champion. So
that's awesome.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of fun things, but I just want to make sure, Ron, you're mentally prepared. I know you just took a sip of booze. Are you ready?
I'm going to try to do the best that I can. I'm excited.
Good.
This will be a good episode.
Yeah.
You know what, too? We've got our website up, too. Let's make sure to let everyone know about that. It's twostuds, TWOSTUDDS.com. Our email address is between@twostuds.com.
And what do you recommend if someone wanted to send us an email? Like, what are they supposed to send us?
They're supposed to send us anything, be it fan mail or complaints. I guess that's cool too. Or if you're interested in becoming a guest on our show, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear wherever you are. If you want to be on our show, let us know. We'd be happy to have a lot of guests come on. So
I like that. And if we have any good guests or good questions, we can definitely read them out on the program.
That would be really
actually,
good.
I would love to read some hate mail as well if we get any. I'd love to read hate mail on this podcast.
I mean, worst case, maybe I can fabricate some just for shits and giggles, right?
True. Hey, without further ado, why don't we bring on our guest, Lori Eich? How you doing?
Hi, I'm great.
Hey, Lori, thank you for joining.
A pleasure to be here. This is a real privilege.
Lori,
an honor.
You are our first guest from Chicago. I mean, I know you're not from Chicago, but you and I met in Chicago.
We sure did.
And we've had, I think you're our 8th or 9th guest. Everyone else is from all over the rest of the country. Actually, all over. We had one guest from Singapore, but you're the first from Chicago. So for that, I don't know. I didn't prepare you for this. I didn't at all. But Ron and I, in your honor, are going to have a shot of Malort. To you, Lori.
To you, Lori, the world champion.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. How the heck do you know us? How do you know me?
So, Alex, at my company that I work at called Dialogue Tech, there was a time in the past where we were hiring, and we were hiring for a position that you were really well suited for, and I got to interview you. And it was the most delightful interview. We had a great rapport, and I was like, why don't we should probably work with this dude. And then we did. It was great. We worked together for a while. We had really great times. We had shenanigans. We had some really great chats in the kitchen. While our time at Dialogue Tech has ended together, we are still friends, which is great because that's how life works. And I couldn't be happier to know you now. That's weird.
No, I appreciate that. That's very kind.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Areas of interest. I know that you mentioned already that you're a world champion, but in what mystical art or sport is that?
Yeah, I play ultimate Frisbee, and it's been a few years since I've played on the national stage. But I guess it's been a few years since anybody's played Frisbee because sports got canceled last year.
I've said this to you before. Once a world champion, always a world champion.
Always.
Oh, I'll take it. Yeah. So I've had I feel like I'm really lucky to have gotten the opportunity to play at the world level for Team USA and for club teams as well internationally. Really fun. And so that's where it's I got to play sports as an adult. Not a lot of people get to do that. So I feel really fortunate on that front. But I like a lot of stuff. I love doing stuff. I love fitness. I love sports. I love music. I love the lake. I love Chicago. I love bars. I just love stuff. Got dogs. I love those dogs.
I can vouch for every one of these things. If there was one person who would come into the office every day with more energy than me, it was Lori.
Awesome. And I've heard you love video games too.
Oh, yeah. I really love video games, especially during the pandemic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we will definitely get into that, especially some of your experiences with Animal Crossing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's get into another important question.
Mm-hmm.
What are you drinking right now?
Ooh, so I'm actually double fisting right now. I've got a liter of water.
There you go.
And I've also got a Pinot Noir from Oregon. It's called Thor's Well Devil's Churn. I obviously bought it for name alone. And it's delightful. It's very delicious, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Pinots from Oregon. They're a little bit lighter than California Pinots, and they are like I feel like they're closer to the French tradition. California Pinots kind of tend to drink a little bit heavier, more like almost a cab. And I'm like, what? This isn't a Pinot. It's like syrup.
Sure.
That's how I feel about wine. So that's what I'm drinking right now. But the water, it's because honestly, I've been paying attention to my recovery, and I have a fitness tracker here. I got a Whoop. It's a fitness tracker.
Yep.
Whoop.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Whoop. But it tells me every morning how well I slept and what my recovery is. And it's telling me lately, like, hey, on days that you're well hydrated, you recover really well. And on days that you say you're not hydrated, your recovery sucks. So I was like, oh, data, I'll take it. And now I'm drinking more water. So cool.
Whoop, there
That's
it is.
applying data. That's what that is. So you're drinking some Pinot. Ron,
Mm-hmm.
what do you got over there?
So today I've got some single barrel Knob Creek, and it's quite tasty, and just a good go-to. But I have to say, Lori, I love you got to say the name of that wine again, just so that because it just has so much bravado. Like nobody just lightly says, nah, let's name this
Thor's whatever.
Thor's Well Devil's Churn.
When you have
my goodness,
you have Thor and Devil in the same,
all in the same.
Right? Do you want to know what the back says? It says, on a remote stretch of the Oregon coast, there is a spectacular force of nature known as Thor's Well. Awe-inspiring waves from the Pacific Hammer, this giant geological chasm, creating an ebb and flow of dramatic splendor. Our Thor's Well Pinot Noir erupts on the palate with magnificent cherry and earth aromas. Who wouldn't buy that? That's great. That is a great statement about your wine.
But it also sounds like a really good pitch for the next Thor movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm into it.
Thor's Well.
Yeah.
Just when you thought the world was safe, Thor's Well explodes onto the world.
I would watch that. I would absolutely watch that.
I would too. And you got to pair it with the wine.
I've been watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've been going through it, the whole thing. And if there's one thing when I've seen Thor, the one thing I'm saying this is missing is the state of Oregon. Every time I go, Hannah, my wife, there's no Oregon in this movie. So,
Well, and when I watch it, I'm like, what wine would I pair with this?
Thor's Well.
Obviously.
Yeah. But Alex, tell me what you're drinking.
Well, I have a feeling that we have a loyal audience in Scotland. And so because of that, I decided for all the Scotsmen out there, I'm going to have some scotch. So I'm not drinking anything too fancy tonight. I'm drinking Double Black. Johnny Walker Double Black. I think it's an excellent drink to have on the rocks for me. So that's what I'm having.
Very nice.
It's fantastic.
But when it comes to our guests coming on, we always like to ask our guests a little bit about, their interest into the world of art. So be it a song, movie, book, painting, tell us about a piece of work of art that really speaks to you or really represents you.
Yeah. I'd have to say it's the Pitch Perfect soundtrack.
Ooh.
Please continue, because I've never seen Pitch Perfect. I don't know anything about Pitch Perfect other than most women I know that I know like that movie. But I don't know. I don't even know. Is it like High School Musical? Is it? I'm not being funny. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I've never seen High School Musical, but Pitch Perfect is amazing. I grew up in a world where I was in all of the bands and all of the choirs and all of the music things I could possibly be in. So obviously I was in a cappella choir, I was in show choir, I was in all of those things. And so when I got to college and I really wanted to be in an a cappella choir, but then it turns out I'm actually not that good at singing. I was like, I guess I don't get in. That's fine. So I just played a lot of sports instead, but that's fine. But I've always seen a cappella choir as this is the coolest thing ever. And I'm pretty sure now looking back that it's not, but when Pitch Perfect came out. It's a cappella choirs at a college. And I was just like, yes, I'm living the dream here. And it's really fun. And honestly, recently, I was like cooking dinner or something. And I was like, hey, Google, play the Pitch Perfect soundtrack. And I realized that I had so much fun because I just sing it front to back. I know the whole thing, obviously. I sing along with the movie when I sing. I am so elated when this music is a part of my life and a part of my aura that it is a part of me.
Do the lyrics in particular speak to you, or is it just
it's pop music, so yes, absolutely.
Okay. I honestly I didn't know that. I thought it was original music. So it's not like a original score.
Not really, no. It's like a cappella versions of pop music. But real fun. It's real fun.
So it's closer to like Glee.
Definitely closer to Glee.
I know Glee.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I think the reason that I feel so, like, I think that this really defines me, it's less of the, like, what the words are saying. It's more of the spirit of the whole thing, where your entire world is engulfed by music, and there's music everywhere, and you're always singing. That's how I live.
I don't doubt that for a second. I think if you had your druthers, the world, we would come into the office every day post-COVID, and we would sing to one another. So
absolutely,
that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, I already do that sometimes. We get on a call and I just start saying, hello! Yeah, it's the world. It's the world we live in.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hey, good news, Lori. You passed the fire round. I know it was so quick. It was so quick you didn't even notice.
Wow. What do I win?
You're the second person to ask. I don't know. Ron,
we're still in the process of trying to get stuff stood up. So someday we'll give you a bumper sticker or something that says I survived being on this show.
That's the dream.
Hey, quickly, because it's not a bad thing at all, but we do hear a little barking in the background. Tell us about your dog. No worries. Tell us about your dog.
Oh, you want to hear about my dogs? Okay, I have 2 dogs. Their names are Stitch and Pork Chop.
Pork Chop from Doug?
Pork Chop from Doug, yes, because my life partner JJ is like Doug funny, and Pork Chop is Pork Chop. He is a dog that skateboards and knows everything. It's great. He's a really cool dog. He hangs out. And then Stitch is, yes, she is Stitch. She is Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, and I'm Lilo. And she sort of kind of wrecks everything she touches. And that's her. That's great. And there's a scene in Lilo and Stitch where Lilo gives Stitch like a baby bottle full of caffeine. And then Stitch goes and assembles some blocks and turns them into like this magnificent sculpture. And Lilo's like, oh, San Francisco. And then Stitch goes, wah, and goes, wah, wah, wah. And then like Godzilla's over it. And that is my dog.
I love it.
Now we know.
Now, before we go on, because you've talked to us about your dogs, but this is important. Tell us what breeds they are. Or just describe them.
It's a great question. So Stitch is a boxer heeler mix. They're both rescue dogs. Okay. So this is all just based on some internet DNA tests that we gave them.
Sure.
Stitch is a boxer heeler mix, and she's got like some bulldog. I don't know, but like the boxer is real. She punches us a lot. And I say us, and I mean JJ. She punches JJ a lot. And then Pork Chop is like every dog. He's like every dog mixed into one. The DNA test was inconclusive. But the list of things all said terrier, like Scottish terrier, English terrier, Yorkish terrier, all of the things. And I was like, okay, he's just like every dog.
He's a mutt.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. But he's got this little crooked tail, and he's got like a bow tie on his chest. It looks like he's very dapper. He's dapper.
We all want to hear about the pets and see them. And in our minds, we want to think about, okay, are your dogs, is Pork Chop, a massive Mastiff or something? Or is,
No, he's a cute little...
Stitch a poodle?
No, Pork Chop's like 30 pounds, and he's like black with brown brindle, and Stitch is brown with black brindle, and she's like 40 pounds. They're both just really cute dogs. And they have ears that go bloop. If you think about bloop, and whatever that shape of ear is, that's what they do. They have ears that go bloop. Yeah.
I know that shape. Shape. Hey,
I know Bloop.
Lori, because I know we could spend a whole episode talking about your dogs.
Sure.
But I want to go back in time. And I mean both literally and figuratively.
Ooh.
I want to talk about your days in Cambridge, Massachusetts. You studied earth sciences and geophysics at MIT. Tell us why geology rocks.
Yeah, geology is awesome. When I got to college and still, I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know what I want to study. I like everything. Everything's fun and everything's great. So it actually turns out that geology is every science ever, all packed into one. You need chemistry. You have geochemistry. You need physics. That's a geophysics. You need to understand how the rocks interact with each other. You've got biology with all the fossils. You've got so much going on. But the main thing is the whole thing is a big jigsaw puzzle. If you think of like what happens when tectonics happen, you start with this perfectly assembled jigsaw puzzle, and then you come and just smash the shit out of it, right? But just like the earth is just smashing into itself, just going like whack, 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 and it's just making a giant mess. And your job as a geologist is to reassemble that perfectly flat thing and figure out how that mess happened. It's just solving a puzzle. It's super fun. So that's what I like. Also, you get to be outside all the time. And that's why geology rocks.
I love it. I've got a quick follow-up, and then I got another question for you. So with what you know as a geologist and your training with that, what's like the biggest thing that you see in movies or in other portrayals where you're just like, no, that's not how that works. And you're just like, those people, they're trying. God bless them. But they just don't understand.
There's a lot of movies that kind of hint at like being able to really predict earthquakes. And they sort of are like, oh, we've got math on this. I'm like, that was my grad school thesis. My grad school research was kind of around this. You just can't, like, we can kind of say where it's going to happen. We're not going to give you like a 5-minute warning that an earthquake is about to happen. That's not within the realm of possibilities. At least it wasn't when I was in grad school. It's been a while since I've been doing that research. But
sure.
So you're telling me when they kind of have their watch up and they go, it's gonna come, it's gonna happen. Here we go. 3, 2.
The pressure's been building. It's
reality.
This is not reality. Also, anytime you tunnel into the earth, like farther than, I don't know, 5 miles or so, it's just it's not real. And I can't remember the actual depth that you can go, but it's compared to the actual depth of the earth, it's real tiny. It's real tiny.
Yeah, I want to say, like, what's the Kola borehole? It's in Russia. It's the deepest drilled hole, and it was like the Soviet Union was, I don't know, trying to find the land of the lost or something, and the funds ran out. But
yeah,
they got pretty far.
Well,
I mean, you can go for a while, and that's, how like oil happens. But it's at some point, and I'm trying to remember what the actual depth, the like max drill depth is, and it's not a thing. But like the actual radius of the Earth is like 6,000 kilometers or something crazy. So like there's just you're just never gonna even get close.
So yeah, this one said the greatest depth that they got to with it, thanks to the power of the internet, 7.6 miles.
I was so close.
Wait, so in the movie The Core, when they literally go to the core, that's not real?
We watched that movie, like the whole geology department went and watched that movie, and it was the greatest theater experience ever, because they would just say things and then everyone would just start laughing.
We did a lot of terraforming in Animal Crossing, right? So there was developing the island, moving things around, building mountains. We're practically geologist experts, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, actually, my own Animal Crossing island, I've actually nuked and restarted my Animal Crossing game like 4 times. But
good for you.
My first island, I was like, you know what I need here is a whole dig site for fossils. And so I actually made a whole canyon where you could and it was all dirt, and you could go, and my friends could come over and dig for fossils in my canyon, which was pretty cool. And I just buried all the fossils I had over there, which was fun. And then my next go around, I was like, you know what I need? It's the Grand Canyon. And I made a big I just made this giant thing with the Colorado River flowing through. Yeah, it was it basically made Horseshoe Bend. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yes, absolutely, we are geologists. If you listen to Blathers' explanations about all of the dinosaurs.
I never do.
You
Never do.
should, because those are great. And all of the fossils, everything about the fossil record, like the ammonite one is great because, like, yes, the ammonite is an indicator fossil. So when you pick up an ammonite in the real world, you're like, yes, this is from the Cretaceous, and that's like something you just know as a geologist. You're like, yes, this is an indicator fossil. I know that this whole layer of rocks is Cretaceous. Now I can actually do cool timestamps on everything around it because I know when this particular layer of rock got laid down because of this great ammonite, and that shows up in Animal Crossing.
So I'm gonna
Thanks, Nintendo.
I'm gonna be completely honest, Lori.
Mhm.
Part of the reasons I never listened to Blathers, I would just keep hitting the button, is because I just thought it was all made up. I thought it was all just fake.
No,
That's
it's all
actually-
real.
Like, I
No,
feel kind of
it's
dumb
real.
that was actually like real historical. And like when I catch a bug too, like what they say about the bug is real.
Probably,
Yeah.
although he hates bugs, so he's only saying the things that he hates about the bugs. But I think it's true things. It's like all of the legs. It's like, oh yeah, of course you hate all the legs, but listen to how many legs this bug has. Like,
Oh man.
yeah.
No, I want to say it was the Monterey Bay Aquarium was actually doing like live broadcasts where they were actually talking about like all the various animals in Animal Crossing. And they were actually educating kids because they were like, okay, you can't come to our place, but guess what? You can come to our island. And they were doing like a Twitch stream and they were talking about that.
Did you know that your frog characters in Animal Crossing, they don't like it when you give them an umbrella, and they will regularly just stand outside in the rain. They are cool if you hand them a leaf. A leaf umbrella is cool, but other umbrellas, they're like, no, I like the rain. And it's true. In real life, frogs love the rain.
And will frogs in real life, if you give them a leaf, will they use the leaf as an umbrella?
I don't know, but you should try it.
All right. Well, so now I feel like I need to, as you said, nuke my world and start over again and actually listen when I donate things to Blathers.
Mhm.
I got to do it. All right.
And you got to go back too because there's Mario stuff has just come out.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So there we go.
Yeah, so you can have a little warp pipe going from one part of the island to the other.
So Lori, so it sounds like Ron and I, because we played hours and hours and hours, we get glorified "you were a geologist" stickers. But you were a actual real geologist out of college, right? Like,
I was.
tell us about that. What was that? There must be some crazy stories about that, or fun ones at least.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that like geology in college is awesome, and geology in the real world kind of sucks. Geology, so that's the thing is like when you think about like the depths of rocks, the top layer is what we call in geology in college, we call it quaternary. Quaternary is the most recent time of history, ancient geology history, that nobody cares about. We just call it alluvium. We're just like, who cares about what's on top? We care about what's underneath. And the underneath stuff is all the cool structural stuff. That's where you find the ammonites. But when you get into the real world and you're dealing with like oil companies and environmental stuff, all they care about is the top. They care about the quaternary shit, and everything below they just call bedrock. And I'm like, no, that's the fun stuff. So all of a sudden, when I get into the real world and I'm a geologist, I'm now a geologist. I only get to care about clay, silt, sand, and gravel. Those are the 4 things that I ever get to put on my map. My colors on my map are so boring. My cross sections are boring. It used to be super beautiful color cross sections because we would find all of these different layers that we could, talk about and highlight. But when you're just dealing with clay, silt, sand, and gravel, it's just boring. So I didn't enjoy geology as an environmental consultant. We did solve some cool problems, but there was also a time in the field where there were definitely coyotes and like a lot of ticks in the field. And it was also 105 degrees heat. So we had to wear like full body coveralls, but then also like duct taped the wrists and the ankles. And then the terrain was really hummocky. This is basically like doing geology on Mars, I think. The terrain was really hummocky and had a lot of like, I could easily sprain an ankle. I had to wear steel toe boots. And there was a point where we were getting chased by coyotes. And that was a rough day. I'm just going to say that.
But that sounds really interesting.
We did do some geology that day too.
Well, okay. So Lori, I have one question. On a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being completely wrong, 10 being very accurate, when I think of, if someone would just imagine I conjure in your mind, Alex, conjure a geologist, I would think like 10 minutes into the original Jurassic Park, right? When they're like excavating and they're like, moving crap around and they're like, here, there's dinosaur bones, right? And they're like doing that. Like on a scale from 0 to 10, how much of that is actually being a geologist?
Actually, if you're a geologist at like a university, that's fairly real. Yeah. I remember we had one older professor who he had spent so much time in the field. He had his cool field hat. He would like run down the mountain. I'm like, dude, you're like 78. And he was just like, no big deal. I don't need knees. I don't need cartilage. And it was just like, pew, 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 just like sprint down a mountain. How did he do that? It was like really loose gravel. And he spent so much time out on those rocks that he just knew what he was doing. It was impressive.
Wow. Hey, so hold that thought, Lori. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, but when we get back, I want to hear more about geology and then how all of a sudden you just made this career change one day. So we'll be right back, everybody.
If you're all the way through your last binged podcast and looking for something new, then Foundation Radio has you covered. Interviews, politics, beer drinking, pro wrestling, Dungeons and Dragons, we have something for everyone. Stream the new episodes every Tuesday wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find all of our archive at foundationradio.net. And you can also follow us on Instagram at foundation_radio. Foundation Radio, something for everyone.
Are you enjoying yourself some Between Two Studs? Well, I know I am. Well, good news. If you want to reach out to us, we've got ourselves a new email address. between@twostuds.com. Send us an email, and who knows, maybe we'll read your letter on the air. Talk to you soon.
Welcome back. We're here with Lori Eich. She was just telling us all about what was her life being a geologist. But Lori, then one day you just woke up and said, I'm going to get into software engineering. Like, what happened?
Yeah, actually, I had a little stint in between. I was a geologist, and then I was trading Eurodollar futures after that. So, yeah, what happened was that there was a really small proprietary trading firm in Chicago that was looking for somebody to just kind of run their books. They just needed someone who, like, understood how, like, computers work and could kind of think and act logically. And I was like, I got you. I can do that. So I jumped in on that, and it turns out that it was a really volatile time in 2008. And we didn't quite survive, but it's okay. We had good times, but that didn't work out. But then, yeah, what happened? So because I keep playing Frisbee, my whole adult life, I've been playing Ultimate Frisbee, which means I'm on a team. I've got a coach. I've got teammates. I've got other adults around me who have real jobs. And my coach was the CIO at a company in Chicago, and he was looking for more engineers to join his team to build out and they were just building in-house software. It was like they had a really small engineering team, just kind of building stuff specifically for the people, tools for the people inside the company to use. They're like, that's cool. And this was a third-party logistics firm. So we're just basically, there are empty trucks out in the world, and there are things that need to be shipped. And we were that arbitrator in between to connect those companies together to make the world go round. So my coach was like, hey, Lori, you've taken a couple software classes. You've taken a couple coding classes. You know how software works. And I know you're coachable, and I know you know how to think. Why don't you join my team as a software engineer? Basically hired me more or less as an intern, but with a very articulated path towards being an actual person who writes code and commits code. So it was great. It was actually, I'm really happy. I'm really lucky he took a chance on me, and I learned how, and we were writing in a language that's easy to learn. It's Visual Basic. This is like you're basically writing in English. No. Everyone hates on Visual Basic, but it's because the earlier versions of Visual Basic were awful. When I had hired, he gave me a textbook, and the textbook, as I'm reading through it, it's saying like, oh, in like past versions, it used to do this, but now we do it this way. And I was like, oh God, that's why people hate Visual Basic. It
I
was
mean,
bad.
admittedly, I'm still going for therapy about doing Visual Basic stuff back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, there are problems with it, and like while I was doing this, while I was employed there, I also took MIT's Intro to Computer Science class on the side and learned Python, and I was like, oh, that's nice. So I like Python, and that's why people don't like Visual Basic. But if Visual Basic's the first thing you learn and you get to just write in English, it's great. So like that was fine. So and I knew Java at least like from an intro class in college, so I understand how object oriented programming works. So so yeah, I was writing code for like 5 years. And but then that company got bought by a much larger company. And it turns out if you're not like really trained properly in software engineering, it's hard to like join a larger company full of people who are, because your code sucks. But it turns out like I actually didn't love the software engineering part of software engineering. I liked the part where I was solving problems for users. I liked the part where I was solving problems for my teammates, within the company. And I like the problem solving part of this. So I really always wanted to be a product person. I always wanted to be a product manager. And so when we got bought by this bigger company who actually had a product department, we had been operating without a product department with the original company for a while. And like that was fine. But like it was basically me and the designer and the CIO. Like the three of us would regularly be on these like reading these articles about how to build user-driven software. Like we were just trying to do product management, basically. So it was great, like being able to join a company that was actually doing that. And then I basically kind of sidestepped away from engineering into the product team. And then, but then they wouldn't give me a role that said product on it. They just gave me a business analyst role. And I was like, nah. So I pieced out. But it was good. I actually had some really great opportunities after that I, like that was what took me to, the job before Dialogue Tech as well as Dialogue Tech. And I'm quite happy now where I'm at. So.
Well, I was going to say, by the time I met you, Lori, you were at a point where you were in product management and you were helping create some really cool products. And I remember like, I'll be just completely honest. Like I remember one of the first times we sat down and you were talking about sort of what the team that you were leading and what you were trying to accomplish. And you were using terms like machine learning and AI. And of course, like these are buzzwords that I'll just be honest, everyone hears, everyone knows, but I don't think anyone actually knows what they are. Can you quickly just like in under a minute explain what AI and machine learning are? Because they're not the same thing.
Yeah, sure. So AI is like a broader spectrum of technology where you're basically a computer is doing something that a human would normally do. A computer is acting in a way that you're like, oh, a human used to do that, but a computer does that now. That's basically it. You've told a computer to do a human thing. Cool. Machine learning is a subset of that, is a subset of AI. Machine learning is when you're like, hey, computer, I'm going to give you a few rules, and now can you just go figure it out from here on? Can you actually like take these few rules that I've given you and make some logical choices in the future that aren't exactly what I told you to do, but they're going to be pretty close, more or less. But like use these as guidelines and then go on and make choices. Like that's machine learning. It's a more complicated version of the broader AI world.
So is it fair to say machine learning is putting up the guardrails and saying, hey, I'm creating a basic structure and then letting, from an automation standpoint, let things go?
Yeah, machine learning is really where the automation comes in. And that's where when people get afraid of technology, it's in the machine learning world. But it's nothing to fear. It's all just, it's not like anybody care. Like that's the thing, is like all of the data that exists out there about you, nobody actually cares about you personally, and that's the hard thing to really comprehend. Is
so my Amazon device doesn't really care who I am, and outside of just a general profile of somebody with a wallet.
Well, okay, Alexa does love you.
Alexa's my closest friend outside of my wife.
Yeah,
she always responds back to me. Always.
I watched the movie
The Social Dilemma.
It was just on Netflix.
Yeah, it was on Netflix, but yeah, it was talking about where it pulled all these people together.
Yeah,
and with that, I think the thesis, or really the kind of problem statement that they kind of try to address, is in the world that we live in today, we have all this data kind of going around with the ability to automate and the ability to kind of have a lot of predictive analytics and AI. You can really either intentionally or unintentionally kind of drive some really kind of very concerning effects. And it talked about, politics. It talked about consumer behavior. There's a lot of different things. But going into the concerns that a lot of people have raised, and I think it's interesting too. I know that that's been a big central focus of a lot of movies about future technology, is what happens when AI goes amok and decides that maybe we really aren't that good or altruistic, or maybe
Yeah.
the AI knows enough to know when we're wrong.
Well,
What are
I
your
think
thoughts on that?
I think the scariest movie that I feel like is actually plausible is Minority Report. Something that is actually predicting future behavior and then actually taking action on that prediction in a way that really affects people's lives. That is super. That is something that I feel like is completely within the realm of possibilities of AI and completely irresponsible and crossing the line. It's crossing the line of where we should be with AI.
Because I don't want to get too much into psychology here, but there's always the question of do humans have free will? And if we can accurately someday predict behavior before it happens, just because we know Alex Studd goes to the bathroom at 8:07 every morning because he gets up at 8:03, and we know that he usually eats at 8:30 because his first meeting's at 9, right? Like, at what point are we so predictable that is it really free will in the first place?
Well, that's the thing though, is like there's a decision element of things, right? Where what you would want if you can actually predict something like that is just information to feed into the human. The human just needs information to be able to make the next choice. They don't need information that tells them what the next choice is. They need information based on their past choices that help them make their next choice.
You give me enough inputs, I will have an output based on all the variables that you've given me.
Yeah, my Whoop tells me what time I should go to bed to get best sleep.
Yeah,
and I'm like, so that's fine, thank you.
How do we actually, do we really actually have free will if it's really a set of inputs that are controlling what we actually do?
It is. You always have the choice. You always have the choice to do X or Y. You don't have to wake up at the same time every day. You just do. And you could choose to sleep in or not. And that's the thing, is that humans will always have the ability to choose. There is a prediction that there is a way that computers can predict what you are most likely to do, but that is not guaranteeing what you're going to do. That's just most likely. So given what you're most likely to do, you should have that information. Like, hey, I think that, like, if, say, there was an off-course airplane that was about to land in my backyard, and my Whoop knows that I'm about to go and brush my teeth, and that sink is right next to the backyard, and my Whoop is like, hey, you usually brush your teeth this time, but watch out, that side of the house has got an airplane coming to it. Maybe you shouldn't. I'd be like, thanks, Whoop.
Thanks, Whoop, you saved the day.
Yeah, like that's the kind of information I would want from the AI that's tracking me.
No doubt there's good and bad to everything, right? But, I know Elon Musk, for example, has a lot of grave concerns about AI. He believes that the government has a responsibility, and he's a small government kind of guy, right? He's more libertarian-esque. But even he believes that AI needs to be regulated by governments. Do you agree with that, or do you think he's off base?
I don't think it needs to be regulated by governments, because governments don't have enough technologists in them. Governments are like the wrong choice. I'm thinking about, like, there are technologies evolve faster than governments can catch up. Governments are in nature reactionary. They're just slow to change. And
look at Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin.
Right.
They're just now starting to talk about it, even though it's a technology that's 14 years old.
Yeah, like, policies can't evolve fast enough to be able to catch up with technology right now. And so governments are not the right place to actually, like, legislate these things because they're full of people who don't understand how the technology works, and they just aren't up to date. They aren't ready for it. So it should be regulated, but not by governments. I don't know by who. Yeah, it's good to see that every time somebody with a technology degree becomes a congressperson or a senator, I get really happy. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, but it's just hard to choose a life of politics when you have a background in technology because you want to do the technology, you want to do the science, but the life of politics, the political situation is just like we just need more technologists in politics.
So, Lori, you've done an awesome job of addressing all of our career questions and interests and grilling you. So you've made it through 2 rounds already.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did it.
2 rounds down. I know when you're not solving the world's problems, creating really cool products. Your home away from home is this place called Lake Okoboji.
Oh, it sure is.
In Iowa. Now, most people, I can tell you, I hope you're not offended by this, probably couldn't identify where Iowa is on a map. Tell us about this magical place that you always told me about, and should we all be planning our summer trips there?
Yes, absolutely. But no, don't show up at the lake because it's too crowded. No, the lake is great. Lake Okoboji is the greatest place in the world. It's where I grew up. It is a chain of lakes in northwest Iowa. And the main lake is called West Lake Okoboji. That's the lake that I grew up on, and it's very deep. It's up to 120 feet deep at the deepest spot. They're glacially carved lakes, and then they are spring fed. So, and then we've got this unique algae that's only in a few lakes in the world. So it's an actual blue water lake. So it's cool because that then it's funny, like when I look at like waves and boat wakes in other lakes, I'm like, ew, it looks dirty, but my lake always looks clean. And it's really nice, but it's beautiful. And the whole lake is just built around the tourism industry, and just enjoying the lake is just part of the summer life. And it's interesting being a townie there because I also, went to high school there and lived there year round and dealt with the very, very cold winters, but it's a great place to be from.
Side question, how often do you have to correct people who aren't from there and who are trying to say, oh, it's Okeechobee? And you're like, no, it's not Okeechobee.
Fun fact, when I was in 8th grade, we had pen pals at Lake Okeechobee. Our high school principal moved down to Lake Okeechobee to be a superintendent, and then she connected all of us as pen pals. And I was like, Lake Okoboji and Lake Okeechobee? Awesome!
Gonna take over the world.
For 3 months, I had a Florida pen pal.
I am guilty of that. In fact, I remember, when I first started, you probably remember this, Lori, but I tried to get to know all the product managers and get to know them a little bit personally. And I was like, hey, yeah, tell me about Lake Okeechobee. And you're like, Alex, no, you're off by about 1,500 miles or whatever you said, right? You were nice about it, but I messed it up, right? But now I know Okoboji. Yep. Iowa.
Yep. It's the best. We have an awesome karaoke bar. It's called Chaplin's. It's the best. It's my favorite place. It's my absolute favorite place to go in the lakes area. Chaplin's is awesome. They have the staff there is just lovely and nice and delightful in a way that I just can only have at this small, like, off the beaten path bar. And all of the patrons, there are regulars. I go there for karaoke, and all of the regulars for karaoke are phenomenal. They are great singers. They sing. It's fun. There's a huge mix of like country and pop music and like old timey 70s rock. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
This is good to know because if Between Two Studs ever goes on the road, right? Yeah. If we ever decide to take our show and travel across the country,
we got to do some karaoke.
I don't know if you know Okoboji. This. We are quite singer. We like to sing. We're not good singers, but we like to sing. So
Right.
we will make.
We're like you, where we did stuff in high school, but then all of a sudden college
got
comes.
rejected from the a cappella choir in college. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, that's me.
Actually,
we feel distraught.
Fun fact: Ron will not admit this. Well, he will, but he won't. He doesn't talk about it. He did a lot of high school musicals and plays. So we can bring that back out, Ron. And I think we need to do, when life returns to normal, we're going to do Between Two Studs, Traveling America, and we're going to hit all the most important stops. We're going to hit New York, LA, Chicago, Lake Okoboji, like those four. Those are the four.
Right. The critical ones that everyone thinks about. You're right.
This is a great plan. This is a really great plan. I'm on board.
All we got to do is just make sure that every one of those stops has some good drinks for us, and we'll have an awesome episode. It's guaranteed.
Okoboji's got you covered on the alcohol front. Covered.
Perfect. Then
you can get a whole fish bowl full of things that you can go take on your booze cruise with you. You're just like, I'm on a lake. I'm floating on a lake. I'm not drowning. I'm in a boat that is floating and moving. And we have a destination, which is the rest of the lake. And then eventually we're going to end up back in a dock, in a hoist. And
somewhere.
But who cares?
Sure.
That's future us. Current us, we're just floating.
You're relaxing.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
It's great.
So speaking of relaxing and having a great time, we were talking a little bit about Animal Crossing and how you were really into it. And Alex and I, we definitely were into it. I got to admit, I've kind of put that by the wayside. My wife, she plays it diligently daily.
She asks me all the time what my stock prices are.
She does. And my wife, I was asking her tonight, I said, are you logging in tonight? She's like, oh, no. Wiz Party came earlier in the week, so I'm all good. And I was like, good for you. But she definitely plays it very, very seriously. Are you still playing it seriously? And if not, what other games are you playing right now?
Well, I nuked my Animal Crossing game for the third time. So I'm currently, as of yesterday, spun up my fourth round of Animal Crossing. This time my island is named Mars. I may take a space theme this time. I'm not totally sure yet. But we'll see where it takes us. I don't really know. I was just like, I'm bored. I'm going to just start over.
But would you say,
I love it.
What would you say is your favorite Nintendo Switch game? Because I remember you were telling me for a long time about Zelda. You were like, you gotta get Breath of the Wild.
Still the best game. But right now I've been playing Hades. Hades is great. Hades is a great game. I highly recommend Hades. It's fun. It's you at first I wasn't going to get into Hades because I'm like, Hades, it sounds like it's just going to be like devils and zombies and just a lot of like bash fighting game. And like,
right. I've played Diablo. I mean, I know how
I was like,
goes.
I don't like extreme fighting games. But a friend of mine who I very much trust, who regularly gives me good recommendations, she recommended Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is one of the greatest games of all time.
Oh, Hollow Knight is awesome.
It's so good. But she recommended Hades. I was like, okay, I'll try it. And yeah, it's great. It is a great game. It's got a good storyline. It's not. It does take place in hell, but it's not. The protagonist is lovely with a British accent, and it's he's like a real person, and it's a compelling storyline and very good character development. I highly recommend it. I think it's great. Especially if you're a kind of player who likes to collect things. If you're like a completionist who likes to collect things, this is a huge game.
Nice.
So Hades, great. That's my recommendation. But I will also always go back to Breath of the Wild. I'm currently on my third playthrough of that. The pandemic has really left a lot of free time here.
We're not judging. We're not judging. Actually,
no.
The game that you recommended to me, Lori, that I was really impressed with, it was just fun. Like if you just want a mindless like RPG, because I love RPGs. It's my favorite genre. But a lot of RPGs today have gotten so complicated that if I don't remember exactly what was said, I'm going to forget part of the storyline. west of Loathing.
Yay! That's my friend Kevin's game.
That was fun, Ron. I don't know if you've played that game. It's totally in black and white. It's like totally a parody of itself. And it's like Wild Wild West, but like totally like laughable. Just like it's fun. It's really fun. It's not that long of a game. But it was like $5 or $10, right? On Nintendo Switch, like the digital. I had such a good time playing that.
Yeah, it's a great game. I was really like, I originally played it because I'm friends with one of the developers, and then after playing it through, I was just like, this is brilliant, and they did such a good job.
You're literally a stick figure.
Yeah,
you're literally a stick figure, and it's totally just like kind of a parody of itself, but kind of just like, hey, we know that the graphics suck, but that's not the point, right? We're just having fun, and I really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, it's like a nice storyline with good jokes.
I like it. I'll have to check it out. I haven't checked it out myself, but I'm going to, and I want one of our listeners to check it out as well and to email us so we can hear all about it. I think that would be kind of cool. What do you think?
That's a great idea.
Cool. It's a thing. Between two studs, we're going to do it.
Let us know, and we'll read it out on the air.
Yes.
So, Lori, I know you kind of talked about this earlier. You said, when you're at Lake Okoboji, which I know it's winter right now, but when you're there in the summertime, you said you like to just hang out and have a drink. What is that drink that you like to have? What's your go-to drink? Either then, during the summer, or even just now? What are you drinking right now? Maybe give us both.
Well, so I've invented a drink that I call the Lake House.
Ooh, okay.
It's not super invented. It's basically a daiquiri, but it's just dark rum. It's 2 ounces of dark rum, 1 ounce of lime juice, and like an ounce of Grand Marnier, and then like maybe a little bit of extra simple syrup if I have it around. I have a friend who is a cocktail expert, who is a mixologist in the city of Chicago. She's good at things. And when I told her this recipe, she was just like, that's not a thing. And I was like, okay, good. I'm naming it. So she's like, that sounds like it's going to be really sweet. I'm like, yep, it is. So that's where we're at. But it's the Lake House, and it's basically a daiquiri, but with like a little bit more Grand Marnier than you would normally put. And it's so good. It's what I drink when I'm at the lake.
Tell us the like what 2 parts this, 1 part this. What is it?
Yeah. So like 2 ounces dark rum. I like plantation dark rum. That's a good one.
What about bamboo? Can I mix in bamboo?
What's that?
It's another rum.
Sure.
It's very tasty rum.
Go for it.
It's very banana-y, but it tastes awesome.
That'd be a great one. Yeah, bananas are great always. Like especially that fake banana flavor. Go for it. It's great. Okay. And then Grand Marnier. Like I have like 2 ounces of the liquor, and then you're supposed to go with like 0.75 of the sugar, and it's usually gonna be 0.75 ounces of like half Grand Marnier, half simple syrup, but I'm like full ounce of Grand Marnier, and then just like a little bit of simple syrup on top of that, because it's sugar's great, and then like a full ounce of lime juice as well, because lime juice is awesome. You gotta be healthy with your vitamin C.
And at all times, you need to make sure you're not going to develop scurvy.
Is really important.
Very important.
The Lake House, the drink is specifically to prevent scurvy in pirates on Lake Okoboji.
Scurvy, I mean, literally last I looked, 4 people a year die from it. It's no joke. It's scary stuff.
No. Maybe if our podcast ever takes off, we should dedicate our lives toward our podcast to eradicating scurvy.
I was going to say, I want to be the Bob Barker of scurvy.
Yeah. Get your vitamin C. You don't want scurvy. Let's kill it.
All right. Kidding aside, when we do our Between Two Studs on the Road, and we make our stop in Lake Okoboji, I want to have the Lake House.
Absolutely.
I want to have probably 2 just to really kind of
I can give you a full fishbowl of the Lake House.
That's
a
awesome.
Couple of those, and then Ron and I will sing any song that anyone wants.
You name it, we will sing it.
This is the best plan I have ever heard for a road trip to Lake Okoboji.
I'm all for it. All right. Well, one last thing, Lori, and you've been a great guest, but I want to get back to something a little more serious. This is awesome what you've done, but I've heard that you were recently published in a peer-reviewed social science and medical journal. Tell us how that really kind of came about.
Yeah, so
'Cause that's awesome.
So I wouldn't say I was published. I would say my friend Emily was published, and Emily and her partner Adam together, they are the actual scientists for this, and I helped a little, but that got me third author on this. So I was like, oh, great, thanks.
There you go.
So I was really happy to be able to help. What this was we were in Okoboji for the summer, and she is a professor at Georgetown in medical anthropology, Dr. Emily Mendenhall, and she had this idea where what she was seeing around COVID in the lakes area, in the Okoboji area, but the reactions that she was seeing to how people responded to recommendations for masking and social distancing and things like that, and that conflict with the tourism lifestyle and the party lifestyle of the lakes area. It was a really interesting thing for her to kind of study for the summer. And since she was there for the summer and, staying out of the city and just, being isolated with her parents, that was an opportunity for her to kind of, reconnect with the community really, but kind of see try to really dig into what was happening from a medical anthropology perspective. So she interviewed people all around the community. I got to help a little bit with those interviews. And then, her and I talked through a lot of the arguments that she was going to be making within the paper itself, within the research itself. And it was great to be able to kind of hash that out with her a little bit and give her an opportunity to have this voice to be able to really understand what was happening in the community of Okoboji on a small scale. Is something that we could actually see exemplified across the country, especially in small towns. And so that was, I think that was really interesting. And she's taking that research like to new places. She's getting, she's gotten some pretty interesting interviews off of that. And I'm so proud to know her. It's like she's so good at things, and it's great to see kind of her being the voice of that research, and where her partner has kind of brought in some of his ideas with kind of how to shape the research as well. So that their collaboration on this has been really, really cool, and my ability to help a little has been great. It's nice to do something in science again.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
Well, good for you on that as well. Is this something that is available? Like, could everyone read this if they so chose? How can we read it?
Let's see. You have to be a subscriber to the journal. There's a nice article in Psychology Review that kind of summarizes the research that is accessible to everybody.
We will link to that on our website.
Great.
We will at twostuds.com.
Fantastic.
Lori, we have had such a pleasure having you on. We've had so much fun talking about geology, talking about video games, talking about AI and machine learning, talking about the greatest lake in the world.
Don't forget the drink that we got to have at the lake.
We got in the perfect cocktail to have at the lake. What else? I mean, what else do you want to? Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about? Where can we find you?
Where can you find me? My goal in life is to be wakeboarding at all times. I just want to be on the lake on a wakeboard, just trying some shit. I'm not very good, but I really like it.
So that means you don't want to be found.
I guess so.
Good enough for me.
It's been a sincere pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to have to, this is something I think we say to all of our guests, but it's sincere. We're going to have you back sometime.
Well, thanks for having me. I would love to chat with y'all and be between two studs at any moment.
Anytime, you're welcome. And you know what? When we have you on next, who knows? Maybe it'll be your 8th rendition of Animal Crossing. You'll have so much more to tell us.
Yeah, We'll see where that geology takes us.